They watched their parents lie on camera for years. They endured the embarrassment, the invasion of privacy, the exploitation. But eventually, these housewives' kids had enough. From Facebook rants exposing abuse to podcasts revealing creepy stepfathers. Here's what happened when the children finally spoke their truth. Sydney Barney's 2017 Facebook post exposing her mother to Tamra Judge remains the most damning, detailed, and devastating takedown of a Real Housewife by her own child in franchise history. At just 18 years old, Sydney penned a lengthy statement that systematically destroyed every narrative Tamara had been selling to RHC viewers for years. For seasons, Tamara had positioned herself as the heartbroken mother whose daughter was turned against her by an evil ex-husband during a contentious divorce. She cried at reunions. She talked about missing Sydney. She portrayed herself as the innocent victim of parental alienation. But Sydney's Facebook post revealed a completely different story. I want to start by clearing some things up as my mother continues to talk about me despite me requesting her to stop speaking of me publicly, as I don't want to be associated with her or the show. Sydney began, "For starters, I did not move out when my parents got a divorce, nor did I choose my father's side in the divorce. My parents separated in 2010. I moved out of my mother's house in 2013. Me leaving has nothing to do with the divorce. It has to do with the living conditions at my mother's house and the way she treated me." Then came the bombshell accusations. "The reasons I left my mother's house are that she was neglectful, leaving us at home with no food or simply ignoring us entirely." She wrote, "She constantly put herself first, and the biggest reason was that she was mentally and emotionally abusive. She was no mother to me." Sydney explained that her arrangement wasn't about her parents' divorce at all. It was about Tamara's toxic behavior that created an unhealthy environment for all of us kids. She was the only one who recognized this and took steps to get out of that toxic environment by moving in with her father full-time. But what really gutted Tamra was Sydney's explanation for why their relationship remained broken. "The only reason I am not living with her is because she continues to do the things that pushed me out of her house, like talking about me on the show, /press, /social media, doing embarrassing things on the show, on lying to me, and putting herself first, to name a few." Sydney revealed that she'd asked Tamara to stop talking about her publicly for 4 years, but Tam refused because the arrangement storyline kept her relevant. It was her only storyline. "Why would she actually try to get me back?" Sydney asked. "Without the estrangements, she is no longer pied and talked about, and her fame and fortune go down the tubes." The post also addressed Tamara's attendance at Sydney's high school graduation earlier that summer. Sydney revealed her father, Simon, forced her to invite Tamara, and that she'd given her mother specific conditions: remain cordial with my father and my stepmom, and to not post anything about my graduation anywhere. Tamara violated that request by posting a photo collage to Instagram, claiming it was picked up by the press against her will. Sydney called, "My mom has been portraying the innocent, erased mother whose daughter was estranged from her due to divorce, and an evil ex-husband, when in actuality, she is the sole reason why I do not want her in my life and will not have a relationship with her," Sydney concluded. Tamara's response was to accuse her daughter of being brainwashed and to claim Sydney was good when it worked for her and her dad. She showed zero accountability, zero remorse, and zero understanding of why her daughter felt compelled to speak out publicly after being exploited for storylines for years. As of November 2025, Sydney and Tamara have had some contact with Tamara, revealing that Sydney hugged her and they talked for about 30 minutes. But Vicki Gunvalson has been vocal that if Tamara truly wanted her daughter back, she'd quit RHC and stop embarrassing the family. Sydney has a very strong opinion of Tamara. Vicki stated in September 2024, "Tamara did none of that, so Sydney knows I'm not important to you." In May 2025, Dina Kenton's daughter Lexi Yohanu appeared on Gia Giudice's podcast and dropped bombshells about her former stepfather Tommy Manzo that left listeners shocked. Tommy had recently been sentenced for hiring a hitman to attack Lex's current stepfather, David Canton. But that wasn't the only reason Lexi spoke out. Lexi revealed that during Dina and Tommy's marriage, he was overly affectionate toward her in ways that made her deeply uncomfortable. Though never inappropriate, the behavior crossed boundaries. To receive it from a stepfather is kind of like extra strange when you don't receive it from your actual father. Lexi explained. "I'm noting that neither Dina nor her biological father were particularly affectionate people. What made it worse was that Tommy's behavior didn't stop after his divorce from Dina. He had this weird obsession with me," Lexi claimed on the podcast. The fact that his fixation on her continued even after he was no longer part of the family suggested something deeply troubling about his attachment. This revelation came after Tommy was already convicted of hiring a hitman to assault David Canton in 2015. The attack left David severely beaten in the parking lot of a Payaik strip mall. Tommy orchestrated the hit allegedly because he was jealous of Dina's new relationship and wanted to exact revenge. He was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. For Lexi to speak publicly about Tommy's behavior toward her took immense courage. She risked being accused of piling on or trying to get attention, but her testimony painted a picture of a man who was obsessed, controlling, and dangerous. Exactly the kind of person reality TV unwittingly featured for years on Real Housewives of New Jersey. In February 2026, Lisa Rinna revealed on Jesse Tyler Ferguson's podcast, Dinners on Me, that her daughters Delilah Bell and Amelia Gay Hamlin hated filming Real Housewives of Beverly Hills so much that she had to bribe them to appear on camera. "I would have to bribe them to film," Lisa admitted. This confession is significant because for 8 seasons, Lisa used her daughters as props on Rob. Their struggles with eating disorders, mental health, and growing up in the spotlight were all documented for ratings. Amelia's anorexia battle in particular became a major storyline, cameras following her to doctor's appointments and capturing her skeletal frame at its worst. The fact that Lisa had to bribe her daughters to participate suggests they never wanted to be on the show at all. They were coerced, manipulated, or compensated to endure the invasion of privacy that came with having cameras document their most vulnerable moments. And Lisa knew they hated it, but kept putting them on TV anyway because it was good for her career. This revelation reframes Lisa's entire Rob run. Every scene with her daughters wasn't a proud mom showing off her kids. It was a mother exploiting her children's struggles for a paycheck and storylines, and she had to pay them to go along with it. Gia Giudice has been the most vocal of Teresa Giudice's 4 daughters about the difficulties of growing up on Real Housewives of New Jersey. In 2021, Gia admitted on Teresa's podcast, Turning the Tables, that filming the show since they were young children had been really hard. "I wish I didn't have to share my whole upbringing, my whole life with America and the world," Gia said. She explained that having her parents' fraud conviction, imprisonment, and eventual divorce, all documented on camera, was traumatic and embarrassing. The bullying at school intensified because everyone saw what was happening in her family. Gia also called out Teresa's parenting choices, particularly her decision to introduce new husband Luis Ruelas into their lives so quickly. Body language experts have analyzed footage of Gia and her sisters interacting with Luis and noted visible discomfort and distance. Gia in particular seems guarded around him in ways that suggest she's protecting herself and her younger siblings. In March 2026, sources close to the family revealed to various outlets that Gia and her sisters have serious concerns about Luis that they can't voice publicly without consequences from Teresa. The implication is that Teresa prioritizes her new marriage over her daughter's comfort and concerns, a pattern that echoes throughout her entire parenting history. While Rob and Dixon's sons haven't spoken publicly against her, their involvement in the Juan Dixon cheating scandal speaks volumes. During Real Housewives of PTOAC Season 8, it was revealed that Robin had known for months before filming that Juan had been inappropriately communicating with another woman before their wedding. Robin allowed cameras to film her remarriage while hiding this crucial information from viewers and her castmates. She let her sons participate in the wedding, knowing their father had been unfaithful. She filmed an entire season defending Juan against cheating accusations while knowing those accusations were true. When the truth finally came out through a pay-W-wall statement on her Patreon, fans were outraged. Robin had exploited her son's participation in what was supposed to be a romantic remarriage celebration. While the entire foundation was built on lies, Robin's sons were used as props in a fake storyline designed to make their mother look good while hiding their father's infidelity. They participated in a televised wedding that meant nothing because the relationship was already broken, and Robin put them through that for ratings. Kim Richards' children have been largely silent publicly, but their lived experience growing up with a mother battling severe addiction has been documented extensively on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Cameras captured Kim's relapses, her erratic behavior, her arrests, and her complete inability to function as a parent during her worst periods. Kim's daughter, Brooke Widerhorn, has been photographed supporting her mother at various events over the years, maintaining a relationship despite the public humiliation of watching Kim's addiction play out on national television. But the emotional toll of being Kim's child while she was actively using and appearing on RHB must have been staggering. During Kim's worst seasons on Rob, her children had to watch their mother slur her words, behave erratically, get into physical altercations, and ultimately get arrested multiple times. They had to field questions from friends and strangers about what was wrong with their mom. They had to live with the knowledge that their mother chose to keep filming despite being in no condition to handle the pressure. The fact that Kim's children haven't publicly condemned her speaks to their love and compassion for their mother. But their silence doesn't mean they haven't been deeply harmed by Kim's choices to continue appearing on RH while battling active addiction. Looking at all these situations together, a disturbing pattern emerges. Real Housewives use their children as storylines, props, and emotional manipulation tools to generate sympathy and screen time. When the children suffer as a result, whether through bullying, mental health struggles, invasion of privacy, or public humiliation, the housewives prioritize their careers over their children's well-being. Sydney Barney begged Tamara to stop talking about her on ROC. Tamara refused because the arrangement was her only storyline. Lisa Rinna's daughters hated filming. Lisa bribed them to do it anyway. Gia Giudice wished she didn't have to share her whole upbringing with the world. Teresa kept her on camera through a fraud conviction, prison, divorce, and remarriage to a man Gia may not trust. The children become collateral damage in their parents' quest for fame and fortune. And when those children finally speak out about the harm they've endured, the housewives either deny it, minimize it, or attack their own kids rather than take accountability. Sydney was called brainwashed, Lexi was ignored, Gia was dismissed. These kids expose real abuse, real neglect, real exploitation, and their parents' response is to protect their image rather than protect their children. The long-term psychological impact on children raised on Real Housewives remains to be seen. Many of these kids are now adults trying to build lives separate from the fame their parents forced on them. Sydney works in the film industry behind the camera, not in front of it. Lexi appeared on a podcast to warn others about dangerous behavior. Gia is navigating college while her mother's marriage plays out on TV. These children didn't ask to be reality TV stars. They didn't consent to having their worst moments, their family's darkest secrets, and their personal struggles broadcast for entertainment. But their parents made that choice for them, and now they're left dealing with the consequences. The exploitation continues. Teresa still films with her daughters despite their obvious discomfort. Tamara still talks about Sydney despite Sydney begging her to stop. The housewives learned nothing from their children's pain because learning would require prioritizing their kids over their careers. And time again, they've proven they're unwilling to do